I think this is our group now. It looks like, do we know how many participants are here?
40.
Oh, 40. We still have 40 people on? Woohoo. Okay. Thank you everybody for showing up. A conference planned without people is no fun. And so I did want to introduce the board members that are here, particularly the new ones. And I know Emlyn Coster is here, and you heard him talk this morning, so that is a pretty good introduction. And Alexis Lau is also a new board member, and Alexis and I haven't even talked. So could you take the mic for a little bit and tell us about yourself? And not too long, because we're all tired, but give us a...
I teach in the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. I'm by training a physicist and a atmospheric scientist, but I also do a lot of engineering work. My interest in big history is really use it as a framework to teach the students both science, basically basic science thinking, as well as I like a lot the big history, long duration type of thing to get our students better understand a lot of change are possible. A lot of things that they see now are just circumstantial as well as this. Because I see a lot of, when I teach environmental thing, a lot of students are really lost hope. They think that is hopeless. And using big history, I was able to give them a different perspective. That's how I get into this, okay?
Thank you. Did you say you're physics?
Yeah, my first degree is in physics.
Good, hard scientist. That's great. Emlyn, do you want to say anything specifically to your role as board member? You're muted. You're muted.
I know, thank you, Lucy. I think I portrayed my range of interests and perspectives this morning, at least for the time being. So let's move on.
Okay. And I will say that Lowell and Nubuo were both reelected to the board. So yeehaw, we have them guiding us. And you're looking at the new president. So there you go.
And Daniel is here as well, Lucy.
Daniel,
yeah.
Where are you? There you, I don't even see, where's Daniel? Anyway, Daniel, tell us about yourself, because I don't see you. You're not on my... Daniel?
Oh, he was here a second ago. I don't know where he went.
Okay. I don't know if my Hollywood Squares has everybody showing. I know that...
Daniel is back.
Oh, good. Can you talk, Daniel?
Maybe he's having connectivity issues.
He's muted. I'm trying to resolve that.
Oh, okay.
Daniel, can you take yourself off mute?
And video too, because I don't see his picture.
Yeah, he's having connectivity issues.
Okay, he is from Brazil. So I should have opened our map. I should have presented our map. We have a good spread. We've got North America, South America, Asia, Australia, Russia. We are missing Europe and Africa right now, but that will be hopefully improved. So I guess what I wanted to do here was to see if anyone could articulate a concrete step. I think our group has an idea that they would like to share, and then we will bring this all to a close. All of this will be online. We hope tomorrow, hopefully, the individual talks will be separated. The members meeting will be, but this is your turn to talk. So I'm going to call on Paula and Sam, because I was in their group, and then you need to raise your hand if you are the group spokesman, so I can call on you. But Paula and Sam, what did we come up with in our group?
Oh, thank you, Lucy. It was great to be in your group. We talked about, in general about big history and its importance as a story, and that, we as human beings are meaning makers, and we use story to help us make sense of things, and that we seem to be kind of lost right now. We don't have a uniting story. Our stories don't seem to be working. And so, what could we do to spread this more widely? Obviously education, different things, but, partly because what we do is, music and art, that if there's some way to further develop the arts as an expression of the story of big history, the story of our origin. And I'll let Sam say a couple words. Talked about having oh, I'm sorry, I said his words. Anyway.
Well, I think it's more definitive than that, because it's, the idea is to sponsor a contest with a big prize, and then have an exhibition of all the entries of artists who want to communicate this story. That is one tangible idea that came out of this.
Yes, and I guess, and we talked also about the what is it that moves people? What is it that moves us to grow, to evolve? Is it seeing a well-crafted list of steps and categories of knowledge, or is it? And I'll just go right to the core belief that I have, which is if it's falling in love. That is the strongest force that I know of. The most powerful human experience, which I know of, that causes people to do anything to adapt to new circumstances. Right now, I'm glad Lowell shared the fact that the earth is on fire. Don't have a lot of time to work on this. I think falling in love is the best, is the quickest way. And if I were to suggest from our conversation, our group, that the greatest thing that we could do is decide what is the most important thing that big history can bring to this moment. And so what are the stakes of this moment, and how can big history, be a leverage point for global transformation, and in a hurry.
Okay, thank you, Sam and Paula. So we could comment on that, or if you want to talk, raise your hand. How about that? Ted Peters.
So I'll just say one word to Paula and Sam. The most important thing we could learn from big history is humility. It's a hard lesson. But I wanted to say that we had Heath in our group, and Heath has got a very good idea about getting us together in between our meetings, and I think he's back on. Heath, would you be willing to share more? You put it in the chat room earlier, but I think what you had was a good idea. Am I allowed to do that, Lucy? Pass it to Heath?
Sure, Heath, just take it. Yeah.
Okay. So what I was saying in their room is about the only thing that frustrates me about how the IBHA works right now is we get together and we have a really awesome conference and we meet people and we exchange business cards and we friend each other on Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff, and we strike up all these great conversations, and then we go home and we don't talk to each other for 2 years. And we lose this momentum that we built up at the conference. So as a attempt to keep the conversation rolling, and I mentioned this in the chat earlier, I have located a free open source program called Telegram, and I have created a IBHA group in Telegram. And my hope is that we can get lots of people to join the Telegram group on the IBHA group in Telegram, and we can keep these conversations going. And, I would love to wake up, I'm in US Central Time, I would love to wake up in the morning and see that while I was asleep, the big historians in Asia, Australia, and India were having a lively conversation, and then I can catch up on it and I can interject my ideas. And we use this platform as a way to share ideas, and then from those ideas we can grab action items and we can turn them into conferences and other ideas and activities and that kind of thing. So
so how do we
my idea in it. So I posted a link earlier in chat. I will post it again. And I will also make a button that goes on the IBHA's website. And you just click on the button and it will take you to Telegram and put you in the IBHA group. And we can just all chat with each other constantly, 24 hours a day. It's a free program.
Okay.
So
great.
Yeah, that was my
Thank
idea.
Sorry, Ted Peters, I called on. Ted, do you still have your hand up?
Yeah, I do. It's on the question of what can we do, and I think it's urgent that we stress that there's only one future for all of us. One of the advantages of big history is that by looking backwards in time through scientific lenses, there's only one history from Big Bang through star formation and life on Earth. If we go to the humanities and ask the historians to tell us about the past, well, then you get a plurality of stories. So when the concern for the health of the planet exploded about 1970, it was the scientific community. And they worked with the model, there's only one planet Earth and everything is related to everything else. In the 1980s, vested interests started giving us disinformation. They started destroying the idea that there is really only one future for all of us. So it's not just a matter of accumulating knowledge, it's a matter of accumulating reliable knowledge and then doing battle with vested interests who want to undermine that knowledge for political or economic means. So it's more than just a discipline. It's going to take a bit of a battle, so to speak, an intellectual battle to persuade us, by us I mean the planet, we only have one future.
Thank you. Okay, Emlyn, I think you had your hand up.
I'll pick up on what Sam was saying in his comment a few minutes ago, but maybe trying to speak on behalf of David and Stephen and Imogene and Alexis, but they'll weigh in, I'm sure. What I took from our group was 2 or 3 things. One is that we're, on the one hand, lamenting that Dominican University has dropped out for whatever reasons, sort of is an alarm call to the imperative of keeping students in the big history mix. And so I asked the question, and I gather there is a partial answer on David Christian's group on the Big History Project, but we don't have students in the Hollywood squares that you're using to, and I think we must, like every other association, find a way to give the quote unquote new generation a voice in the association and hear from them directly, because they're going to be inheriting the mess that our generation has created, which leads to the fact that as I think Stephen was saying in our group in particular, it used to be maybe clearer than it may seem now that IBHA conferences were focused not so much on, I'm paraphrasing, I don't know because I wasn't there, not so much I understood on esoteric issues, quote unquote, but on pithy so what questions. And to go back to what Sam was saying, we don't have too many 200 years left. We may only have 200 years left. And to say what Heath is saying, that we can't afford to go 2 years and 2 years and touch on this and say the same thing every 2 years. I think that the ultimate transdisciplinary discipline, that of big history, urgently needs to have a sense, as any organization does, of what are its values, what is the core business purpose. There's plenty of space for everybody around that tent, but but what is the central tent? Where do we think that should go in the next 10 years? And only then can we, once we've got a now and a destination, can we have a strategic vector? So before we talk about a strategic plan, we have to have a sense of what we're doing and where we're going, and then we can link the two with a strategy. That's good old-fashioned organizational discipline. But I would echo the students, and the last point I made in our group was that we don't want to, we cannot afford to be the discipline that on the one hand has so much centrality potential to the so what, that we become inadvertently responsible for shifting deck chairs on the Titanic without ever talking about the Titanic.
I just wanted to say, Lucy, that the previous speaker making the point that there's one future is something that I am very much committed to, and we have a global potential for the future, and it's a single one, and we're all going to have that same future.
Yep, underscored. Okay, next, someone who wants to speak? Imogene. You got to unmute. There you go.
Oh, I just want to say, I think this has been phenomenal. It's extremely informative and stimulating, and I'd love to see these types of meetings once a month, but definitely more often and on a regular basis, because just like someone else said, we get great momentum and then it's flatlined.
Yeah.
So that's what I like to see.
Greg?
Yeah, so a couple of comments. First, I'll piggyback off of that. I developed what's called a theory of knowledge society, and in the consequence of COVID, a number of things happened, and ultimately we started having weekly Zoom community meetings. So it's just an opportunity every Monday at 5:30. Somebody takes the lead, and we listen to them, and we all get together, and we say, "Oh, hey, it's been really easy to organize. You know, it's not hard." And it keeps the community connected. So there's like a core of 10 or 15, and then maybe another 5 or 7 people show up or whatever. But it seems to me that this could be done at the big history community, just piggybacking off of some of that. In terms of our group, a couple things came up. First, Barry Wood, I think is correct, a longstanding member, echoed, I think, some of the concerns that were raised around environmentalism and the environmental dangers, and Big History's kind of the so what on that angle, and what Big History has to say. Jennifer Morgan and Nobu, if I say your name wrong, I'm sorry. We're in that group also. Jennifer commented about her knowledge in children's stories, and then we talked about education. One of the things that was mentioned actually was, you know, should we be really advocating for outdoor education? And perhaps in the COVID world, now is perhaps the time to do that and explore that. And are there ways of interfacing particular kinds of activities? Jennifer mentioned a school that she's aware of that's sort of organized around educating kids in a garden. And that led to a nice little jump. I developed a metaphorical garden kind of framework for my ideas, because I believe the 21st century is going to have a different kind of information educational interface that's going to be much more interactive, that's going to be virtual. That was one of the motives, as well as the symbolic significance of a garden at multiple levels. But so what can Big History do or say about the education of where we are and the future? That's also, by the way, something that our Theory of Knowledge Society is very, very interested in. We believe one of our members, Zach Stein, talks about the time between worlds and identifies the centrality of education in getting us to shift our perspective as we hand the baton off to the next generation. But what are we instilling in them so that we can be good ancestors, to go with that phrase of the day?
Thank you. Is someone, any more hands? Okay, Barry? Barry Wood?
Yes. IBHA was formed by people in the universities, mainly academics, and in many ways it still is that kind of an organization. I wonder how to frame a possible new direction that IBHA could take in light of the environmental problems. And I want to mention two organizations that maybe provide a model. One of the oldest, of course, is the Sierra Club, which goes, I think it has had its 125th anniversary just recently because it was formed back in the 2 centuries ago, and is an activist organization of great influence and power. The other one is the Union of Concerned Scientists, and they put out a journal now since the 1940s, right after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. And both of these are organizations that have a very activist stance, and it could be that some kind of model of that could be something we could take up in IBHA and move into that slightly more aggressive stance. It's okay to have, as somebody's saying, meetings every couple of years or even every couple of months and talk about these problems. But what way could we become not only more activist, but more visible and engaged with the problems that we see around us? And I don't know just how that would be done, because I don't personally tend to be an activist. I don't go on marches and so on and protests. I did in the past, but I don't now. But just how would we define Big History as an activist organization as opposed to an intellectual academic organization? I think that's a direction we perhaps should discuss.
Okay. I'm going to be trying to write these up and then send it around, and you guys can make edits on it, and then we'll plan our next symposium, which I think should be in 2 months, which direction we're going to go. Other hands? I got to go to 2 screens here. I'm ready. Dying to talk? I guess who's that? No, okay. Vicky, you want to talk? Okay. I would just conclude maybe with one thought that I think is important. It was at the point of my self-mastery, because we're not going to, I just been teaching this Big History to middle school students 3 times. Had to do my normal camp in online camp. But what we end with is that the future is actually emergent from the self-mastery of the individuals that are on the planet today. Because if as individuals we do not master the disequilibrium within us and learn how to be grounded, compassionate, well-educated, all of the virtues that are in all of the religions, have the society that's articulated by all of the female jurisprudence goddesses. If we would just do that, that would be a good start. So I'm just throwing that into the mix. Daniel, I see your picture is here, and maybe you could introduce yourself finally before we conclude.
Sure.
Our new board member from Brazil.
Yeah. Sorry for all the internet problems. There's a maintenance going on around here, so my internet connection is really unstable. Hello everyone, I'm Daniel from Brazil. I'm associate professor of history, economic history, here in our Federal University of Rio. I just came out, I just discovered Big History recently. It's 5 years I know about Big History, and since then I became some kind of Big History geek. That's how my friends call me. So that's it. I teach international politics and international political economy and the historical aspects of these disciplines, and I'm trying to make them look more big history-ish, you know, as the time goes. So it's my struggle here, and I'd like to stress that I come from a country that is now going through a very terrible process of environmental destruction, and we have here our little monster in the capital. He's trying to kill us all. That's how we used to say. That's it. Big history is even more important, I think, to people like us Brazilians, because we're in the middle of all of it. We're all in the middle of it, but we're some kind. We have taken point on this, I think.
Thank you, and welcome to the World of Big History and the IBHA board. Emlyn, was your hand up?
It was, Lucy. I want to just offer a comment about the road ahead, or the road that's around the corner. If the Big History Association manages to define its optimal relevance, that is only a great step. It does not answer the question of how we communicate this wisdom that we may have come upon. And I want to just suggest, as is the need for other associations who struggle to get a voice out there in society, whether it's through using, if they're affordable, or if we have pro bono communication and marketing officials, which don't generally come to the association. We need the wisdom and the profession, which is not amongst us, in order to guide us how, as any association needs when you at this moment. The second is, the power of writing in influential newspapers in terms of op-eds is another vehicle that should be used. But the two biggest, as I have come to understand, I think accurately, that back now 10, 20 years ago, or maybe 30 years ago, when the world thought that using seatbelts was really important and that secondhand smoke was a very bad idea, it took a decade-long campaign to shift people from don't intrude on my rights. It's analogous to the mask wearing today. We need to have a very coherent, coercive campaign with a skill set that we don't currently have. Just us saying it's not going to make it so. So I'm just using those few examples to urge us to think concurrently about how to communicate all this as we come up with what it is we want to communicate.
Okay, thank you.
And if I can chime in, Lucy, I'm probably going to mispronounce the name here. Bodan Kruko has his hand raised.
Can you unmute him, or
yeah,
hard for me to see everybody?
Yeah, I like the this is excellent, and we need more of these symposiums. And second, I like the fact that it's being recorded because I missed some of the slides. The second thing is I'd like to get a link or some kind of link to that theory of knowledge group, because that meets on a regular basis once a week. So I'd like to participate in that, and if there's a way to communicate how to access that. So that's another thing. Third, some future developments in terms of the conference coming up, and some information. Obviously, it's a bit premature, but I like all these things. I think there are three components. It's an academic and analytical excitement about all this. So that's what Big History does. The second component, how does that relate to, and the psychologist is working on that, how does it relate to personal development or meta-history or metacultural understanding? That's something that definitely has to be worked out. Where are the linkages? And, concrete actions in terms of political action. So personal development is very important. In all religions, we have disciplined paths